That chat, we welcome John Morrison. Hey, yo, Till, yo, IO, let's get started.
Peace. I am MC Till.
Peace, I'm profound.
Peace. I'm Ayamas Marad.
And together we bring you, the Boom Bap Chat. That's right. Number 86. And it is unofficially sponsored by Everybody's Records. If you don't know about the store, dope record store here in Cincinnati. And if you can get here, go check them out, support them. They have dope vinyl, CDs, tapes, and books, all kinds of stuff. If you can't get here, you can check them out online at everybody'srecords.com. So check that out.
Yep. If you don't have a copy of our annual Boom Bap Review books, you can get all 3 copies for $30 at boombapreview.com.
Yes, and please be on the lookout for our new book that's in the works right now. The Native Tongues Review is coming out in May, so mark your calendars. And if you want to get the latest updates, sign up for the book.
Yes. Where can they sign up? Iomas.
The script is not on here.
Oh, the script cut off.
The teleprompter stopped.
The teleprompter was like, we're gonna fire the teleprompter, man. That's hilarious. But you can sign up at boombapmonthly.com. So check that out, please. Yo, hey, listen, tonight is gonna be a great night. We have a true Renaissance man with us. This guy does it all. He is a writer, a DJ, producer, sample flipper. He has a podcast. He's an NPR contributor. His work has appeared in Grammy.com, Bandcamp Daily, and more. I wouldn't be surprised if this man built his own house and has a sustainable garden in his backyard. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we welcome to the Boom Bap Chat, Mr. John Morrison.
Peace. What's up, y'all?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm beautiful, man. Chilling. You know what I'm saying? It's been a nice, long, productive day. Yeah. So yeah, I'm feeling good.
Right on, man. Well, before we jump into the conversation, I just want to say, we like to give flowers to our guests here tonight, and I just want to say, like, obviously, your depth of knowledge, when it comes to music, is just incredible, and obviously, you have lots of skills and just an array of things. But something that really has inspired me is the way that, like, I see you interact with people. You just have like a way of interacting that's like very inviting, and like you probably know more than everybody in this realm, but you never like come off that way. You always come off real humble and real chill and real inviting and real engaging. So I appreciate that about you. So thank you.
Thank you, man. And literally right back at you. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a younger person, I had a lot of struggles with hubris and being like an arrogant dude, and life humbled me, and I saw the worth in just chilling and like approaching people in like a decent, respectful way. You know what I mean? It's I turned 40 last year. You know what I mean? So I had to learn a lot of lessons to get to be not an asshole, like a lot of us do. You know what I'm saying? Like it's right, a lot of us.
Yeah, no doubt. So one thing I read about you was that you started writing not just hip hop for hip hop magazines, but for punk magazines.
Yes.
And I find that fascinating. And I'm just curious if you could like share with us like how you got started in music. Was it through hip hop? Was it through punk? Was it just like any and everything? What was your like entry point into music?
I'm absolutely 100% grew up in hip hop culture, right? My older brother, every time I talk to somebody about this, it always starts with him. Shout out to my older brother. He's 11 years older than me. And in 1987, he joined a group called the Devastating Four. So my brother produced for this group. There were 3 women MCs in this group, and they would do shows, in Philly. They opened for Ultramagnetic back in the day. You know what I mean? So this is 87, 88, around that time. And my family, You know, my mom's a creative person. She's an artist, a singer, and you know, she always encouraged us to follow, you know, the creative energy. And my mom would take us, our whole family, we would go see my brother perform. So this is 87, 88. I'm watching three women on the mic. They had a DJ too. And my brother would have a drum machine and sampler doing live beats on stage. This is like 88. And I saw all of this shit. You know, we would be in the crib. I would see him, you know, with like the Roland TR 909, making beats and stuff. So it was something that was thoroughly like in me from a young age. And I started writing as an MC a few years after that. So this is like the early 90s. And my brother, his big thing, he was like, yo, if you're going to rap, learn how to make beats, then you'll be a double threat. You know what I mean? This is the early 90s. So Pete Rock ruled shit. Eric Sermon, you know what I mean? Lord Finesse. And at first I was like, nah, I don't want to learn to make beats, because like the idea of physically making music, the shit seemed like magic. And a lot of hip hop production at that time was like crazy complex. So I was like, I can't do that shit. You know what I'm saying? I can write and talk shit, you know what I mean? Grab a mic, but I can't do, you know, what Pete Rock and them do. And my brother, he kept, you know, pushing me like, yo, learn to make beats. I'll teach you. I'll teach you. So I relented. And he literally sat me down, like after school, he would sit me down at a drum machine and he would hand me like BT Express, Do It Till You're Satisfied, you know, Ultimate Breaks and Beats, all of that shit. And he'd be like, yo, this is where how you get your kick and your snare out of a drum break. This is how you put together a pattern. This is how you MIDI a drum machine into a sampler, into a synthesizer. So I was a preteen, like 11 years old. I knew how to MIDI instruments into one another. You feel me? Yeah. Shit that in the 80s they used to pay people to go to studios to do. You know what I mean? Like, yo, we need a MIDI guy to teach these machines to talk to each other. My older brother showed me that when I ain't even have hair on my nuts. You know what I'm saying? He showed me all of that shit. So, you know, rhyming and making beats and collecting records and being in the sampling, that was, you know, my core. So of course, sampling leads the way into like opening up your ears, because you're always looking for sound. You know, I was a teenager in the mid 90s. My man Steve Clark, my main man, he's in the chat. You know, we all grew up in the mid 90s, and it was this era where you had hip hop, you had punk, you had, you know, the grunge sound that was coming out of Seattle. All of this, you know, it was this culture, this colorful mid 90s culture that we grew up in. So we listened to all kinds of music, you know what I'm saying? So I started writing, and we can, you know, I can get into the story of how I started like writing as like a journalist. But I started writing for local hip hop zines. And then I said, well, I listen to punk too. So I would write for like indie, you know, punk zines as well. So I always had big ears, so to speak. And that comes from growing up in hip hop and sampling.
Yeah, dope. Profound.
That's a dope story. Yeah. That's a dope story, man.
Yeah, got any follow-ups before I jump in?
No, so where are you from?
I'm from Philly.
No doubt.
Yeah.
North, south, west?
I'm from Uptown, which is north of North Philly.
All right.
Right.
For sure. I love Philly, man. That's a beautiful city, man.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Definitely want to ask you about writing, because we've all gotten more into writing here on the Boom Bap Chat. But before that, you know, this is the Boom Bap Chat, and we do a lot of stuff around Boom Bap. And so we often like to ask our guests about that term itself, Boom Bap. When you hear that term, what comes to mind for you? How would you describe that term?
Immediately, I think of KRS. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that I remember when that album came out. I was just getting into like making beats and stuff. And I remember looking at that cover, and he's like in the, you know, wherever, you know, bedroom or whatever. And he's like, he's got like the headphones and shit. My cousin showed me how to do that, how to record, use headphones as the microphone. And it just, you know, that's whenever I think of that term, I think sometimes the term, boom bap, we use it as heads who are into like 90s hip hop or grew up, you know, we was outside in the 90s and shit. We tend to use it as like a way of like differentiating between other styles of rap that, you know, our demographic may not like. But like in its purest form, I think of that term and I think of that cover and what it meant to be, you know, in your crib, like writing rhymes or like chopping up a sample or some shit. It gives me, in the best sense, it gives me like it takes me back to that.
For sure. Every time I see that cover, I think of Karis once saying, "You never will." The champion.
Yeah.
And that sounds like he recorded it, you know,
through that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I bet he did. Yeah,
he probably did. Yeah.
Right. Profan, you got anything on the lyrical side this evening?
Well, man, since Brother John is from Philly, and you wear multiple hats like we all do at this table, on the writing side, what is, if you had to go back and go through the whole Roots catalog, what's the one song that would draw you to write about it?
I've written a ton of stuff about the Roots. Arguably, they're probably the group or artist that I've written the most about. Sun Ra might be second. So I've written a lot about the Roots in my career. I don't know. I'll say this. There's a song, Panic, where Black Thought, he comes in, it's just like, it's like raw. He's like
it's on trying to remember.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the shit. I wake up in the darkness at 12:17. The shots of sirens. Look out the window, peep the high beam. Now they searching. The cops looking for the person that pulled the trigger. Medical figures is nursing the kid that got shot. Some innocent eye on the front, the rock on the McKean Street block. It's the shit he's like saying, and the energy that he has behind that shit is Philly to me. You know what I'm saying? So if there was something that I had to like write about like tomorrow, I would break that record down. But also another one, I just thought of this, Bahamadia song, You Know How We Do.
Yes.
For folks, you know, who might not, I guess, you know, the concept is pretty straightforward, but like if you think about it, line for line, Bahamadia's You Know How We Do is basically like a Rosetta Stone for Philly hip hop history. You feel me? So, you know, she's talking about groups, you know, lyrical terrorists, you know, the rebels, you know, where she says, what's the line? She says, I can't think of the name of the fucking that John Doe Thoroughbreds record. She's breaking down, you know, hip hop history, but also the contemporary scene that she was in. She's referencing groups you can't even find their records. Wow. You know what I'm saying? And Genius, if you go on Genius right now, there's pretty much no annotation. There's like a barely there, like a couple lines people have annotated. I've written out a full annotation of You Know How We Do with like all the historical references in it. I just need to sit down with Bahamadia for like 5 minutes and get it's like one or two lines that I haven't been able to figure out that I need to sit down with her, and then I'll put that shit out. You know what I mean? Once I get to like chat with her, we've talked. I don't know her like that. I've met her, but we talked about me doing an interview with her, but we haven't been able to get it together like scheduling wise. But I would love to sit down and talk with her to confirm this annotation of that song, and then show people like she really put the whole of Philly hip hop history. You know, she's talking about you know, Sex Machine, and like, you know, which was like one of the early like Philly like DJ shits. You know what I mean? She really breaks down shits. DJ Cruz. She breaks down the whole history of the city's hip hop culture, and you know, that's something that I would, if I could, you know, name anything, it would be that Roots joint and that Bahamadia song.
The first out the limo was the nigga Charlie Max.
Come on. You know what I'm saying? It's every line.
Wow.
Yeah. Dope.
That entire album
That's fire, dude.
So good.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned a couple of lines in there you're still trying to figure out. Like, if there's a song that captures you and there's lyrics that like you're not sure what they mean, do you obsess over it and go down a rabbit hole to try to figure it out, or you just like kind of enjoy it and whatever?
I as much of my job is based around like knowing and understanding shit and contextualizing shit. I love when I don't know a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you look at a record like Funk Crusher Plus. I bought Funk Crusher Plus probably the week it came out. Right. I bought it at Armand's in Philly, is a record store. They used to be in Chinatown, but then they moved and now they out of business. But I remember we cut school and I went and bought Funk Crusher Plus at Armand's, and years passed of me listening to that record obsessively, and I still didn't get all of the references. LP says some shit on that record that set off a light bulb in my mind maybe like a month ago. You know what I'm saying? That record came out in 97. So I love mystery, and I accept like, okay, not everything. If I'm listening to an MC, I didn't write the shit. So I acknowledge that I'm not gonna understand everything, or I'm not gonna catch everything. Some shit is regional. You know what I'm saying? I respect that shit when people throw in like their regional slang and their regional references and shit. It's like, yo, you know what I mean? Not everything is meant. That's the one issue that I take with Genius and like whosample.com and all of that. They're incredible resources, and they should exist, especially so that younger people can learn.
Yes.
But not everything has to be broken down. You know what I mean? And I say that, and it's my job. I eat based on my ability to break shit down. But we also need like a little mystery too. So if somebody say some shit, I never hit MCs with like, oh man, you know what he's saying. Like niggas used to hit Ghostface with back in the day. Scotty Wiley popping to me, Big Microphone Hippie. People say, oh, Ghostface is just saying words. Nah, man, he's illustrating his internal world. You know what I mean? The shit makes sense to him on some level, and I respect that.
I never even thought of it that way. Like that's what you just said. Like he's describing his internal world. Like that's dope right there.
Yeah,
I
man,
never even looked at it like that.
I respect the shit like that. Like, if it's not, if I don't catch it, that's on me not catching it. You know what I mean? It's its own thing.
Yeah. And I mean, music is, there's a universe. What do they say? It's the universal language. Not that you can understand every word, but you can feel it. I want to just pause here. Shout out Matthew Coop. He's referring to you, John Morrison, as the legend. So shout out to Matthew. Appreciate
Much respect, man. Thank
he was
you.
excited about when we posted initially about having you on. He was really excited.
Shit.
So shout out to Matthew. Man. And speaking of slang, Marcus is always joining us. E40 got his own dictionary.
He sure do.
Facts.
For real.
Facts.
It's funny you mentioned Ghostface. I was actually thinking about Ghostface, as you were talking, because there was some dispute, like you mentioned, and people like he just putting out words, but it's like if it's good, it's good. You don't have to understand everything,
Yeah, they asked Ghost about that years later, and he was like, "Oh man, I don't know what I was just writing.
I mentioned that a couple of shows ago. I
don't believe that shit. I think he got tired of people asking him about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You feel me? I don't believe that shit.
It's very telling though, because as people are arguing and fighting over it, Ghostface is just making music, doing his thing. Right. But you don't believe him. You think what he was saying had a meaning to him.
I'll say this: I understand Supreme Clientele. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like a few weeks ago. Somebody was talking about Camp Low Lucchini, and people were like, "Nope, nobody knows what they're talking about." I understand Camp Low Lucchini. I don't have the time to write it out and explain it, but you know what I'm saying? I understand what they're saying. I understand Supreme Clientele. You know what I mean? But who am I to argue with fucking hip hop Twitter? You know what I'm saying? Like I
you can't win.
Yeah, I don't get into that
win.
shit neither. You'll never see me on the timeline going back and forth about opinions.
Yeah.
Like that's not my speed.
Same. I have to ask you about an album. There was an album that came out and I was loving it. And my buddy, my roommate at the time, he was like, man, it's dope. But there's no way he's talking about anything. Like he's just throwing words together. And it was Afu Ra's first album.
Oh shit. Yeah.
So we went because we had the CD and he put the lyrics in the liner notes.
Mm-hmm.
So you could read them. And he was like, I still don't know what this means. I'm looking at the words and I don't know what this means. Do you remember that album?
Oh,
and did
1,000%.
Yeah. What did you think about that album as it relates to like what the heck is he talking about?
I thought it was dope. I mean, plus also you figure the culture that, you know, I grew up in, motherfuckers used to rhyme all kind of bugged out ways. My man Steve is in here. He watching. Steve will remember, you know, we were battle cats out on like Castor Avenue coming out, you know, of school in high school, and cats would be throwing all kind of styles. I remember one dude showed up in the cipher was rhyming like Shakespearean style, like Lord Have Mercy before Lord Have Mercy came out. Now and forever, like that kind of shit. So you know, we grew up in a culture where people were really experimental with words. You know what I mean? So Afu Ra, a whirlwind through cities, influential, scientific power.
Come on, man.
Like he kicking that shit. I get it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even if you don't, even I think that sometimes when Black verbal culture, I think sometimes Black verbal culture is interpreted through a Eurocentric lens.
Absolutely. I believe that for sure. Colonial,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, colonial. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that colors the way rap music is critiqued. I think that colors the way that it's written about and the way that it's contextualized historically. When you know, we really have with rap music, we have a people who invented this shit, who were enslaved Africans who had, you know, thousands and thousands of years of verbal culture that they're trying to like squeeze into English, right? So it colors our understanding. I think I see, man, I try not to bang on like other, you know, music journalists, because you know I'm like we're in a guild together, just like I'm in the DJ guild, I'm in the MC guild, I'm in the brotherhood of music journalists. But sometimes, man, I see music journalists trying to like contextualize rap, and I'm like, you clearly don't come out of this culture. That's why you're missing this, that, and the third.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So it's no, it's you know, I don't like everything, but there's nothing where I could be like, oh, this is too bugged out. I don't know what they're talking about. Like, man, people play with words. That's what this shit is.
Exactly.
Totally. Almas, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, historically, we always known for bending words, and creating words and stretching the English language. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They call it ebonics, but whatever. I call it the Black vernacular. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? And the question that I have for you is, since, like, again, Philly, man, I just love Philly. I fell in love with Philly the first time I went there, man. Like, even before I went to Philly, just knowing about like the youngsters, just knowing about, you know what I'm saying? Even before the Roots, like the youngsters and Schoolie D, you know what I'm saying? And then when I actually got there, I was just like, yo, I see why this city is electric, man. Like from West Philly to North Philly, like we was in the Badlands, then we went to West Philly. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, man,
I was on tour.
Yeah, man, we was just like checking it out, and we was eating them Philly cheesesteaks, man. They was like, man, them boys feel like a newborn baby when they put it in the bag, bro. Like, man, boy, we just had to sit on the concrete and let it settle before we could move, boy. We was so full, bro. But
we get them shits to little kids,
man. Like,
let a little baby eat them shits.
So the question that I have is, Malik B means so much to me as an MC. And I just want to hear your take on. I got so much respect for Malik B.
Yeah.
He's somebody who I definitely I learned a lot from him lyrically.
Mm-hmm.
And two of the songs that come to my mind is the joint that he did on Bahamadea's, his verse on Bahamadia. Man, he blacked out. And
It's the joy. Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
it's the joint, man. And he blacked out on the lighters, like on the Philadelphia. Like those are my two favorite. I always, before I write a verse, I'll listen to those two verses before I write a rhyme because I just get inspired by it. So I just want to hear from you. What does Malik B mean to you, and what do you think Malik B means to Philly?
Okay, so Malik B. Okay, so if I'm standing like how I am now, say I'm standing on my mom's back porch, right?
Yeah.
If I point out that way, you can see Malik B's mom's front porch.
Yo.
Right? So he's from West Oak Lane, the same neighborhood I'm from, north of North Philly, and I've known Malik since I was a child. You know what I mean? Rest in peace. He grew up. He's older. You know, obviously he's older than me, so he grew up in my brother in their age group. And when I started rhyming, my first rhyme partner was my man Tommy, and he lived, I want to say, 2 or 3 blocks or 2 or 3 doors away from Malik's mom.
Wow.
So we would sit out on the stoop with him. He'd be like smoking a beanie or some shit, and we'd be out there freestyling and shit. We like little kids. And it's crazy because I never tell people this story in public, but I want to say around like 95, the Roots had, they had like popped off and shit, and Malik would still be around the way.
Yeah.
So me and Tommy, we would like battle kids, grown men. We was really on that like battle shit. And Malik, I remember Malik would come around, he'd be like, yo, spit some shit, kick something. And we'd like rhyme for him and shit. And he was like, yo, we're working on our next album. I'm gonna bring you some beats. Basically, how we get people on Roots albums, you bring in some shit and we vote on it. This is what he told us when we're, 13 or 14 or whatever. And Malik B brought us a beat tape. This shit had this was when the Roots had like Kilo and Chaos doing like a lot of their beats. And this beat tape had the craziest beats on it. It didn't sound nothing like Do You Want More and the shit that I was like, man, this is like what y'all writing to? He was like, yo, write some rhymes, record some shit. I'll bring it and see if I can get y'all on the album. Wow. The album ended up being Philadelphia Half-Life. We did not get on Philadelphia Half-Life. Me and my man Tommy, I remember I had in fact, sorry.
No, you good, bro.
I had this shit.
Whoa.
Right?
Whoa, look at that.
A karaoke 2-deck karaoke tape recorder. That's how I used to record all my beat tapes, all my little raps and shit. So we took that beat tape and we recorded a bunch of songs. We were like in the crib, just like writing our songs. And Tommy ended up, he was closer to Malik because they was on the same block.
Yeah. Tommy
ended up having to like go away, and we never ended up giving Malik the tape. And then Philadelphia Half-Life comes out, and it's like the greatest shit ever. The shit was so fly, I didn't even mind. I was like, whatever. But yeah, that I've like ciphered with Malik multiple times. I would, see him as I grew up. I'd see him, at shows and shit. And he was just a brilliant dude. We used to do a lot of like off the top. We used to battle. You couldn't battle with like a written rhyme. You know what I mean? Around that time, you had to like go off the top. Malik is probably him and a kid named Cliff that grew up on the next block over. Probably the illest off the top MCs I've ever rhymed with. Malik was a fucking genius just off the top. You know what I mean? And he tell you a whole fucking story, off the top of his head, like with a rhyme. And he's was absolutely a genius and like a funny dude. I think the last time I saw him, I had one of the, and this is, this was like, in the last couple years, before he passed, I was around my mom's way and I had one of the like the Africa medallions on, like niggas used to wear in like 88 and shit, but this is like contemporary time. So I saw one of them and I'm like, yo, what's going on, Malik? And he like, oh man, this nigga got on the Africa medallion. Like, yo, where you even get that shit from? I'm like, oh, don't worry about that. You know what I mean? So he was like a funny dude, you know what I mean? Real talented, real gifted, and he's one of the best that's come out of this city. It's crazy that he left us so young. I didn't, nobody saw that shit coming, or at least I'll speak for myself. I didn't see that shit coming. You know what I mean? So it was a it was heartbreaking, and he was really, it was a moment, or I would say it was a point of pride that he was from my neighborhood. You know what I mean? He was so ill, and everybody knew he was ill. Like if you listen to, Do You Want More, Illadelph, Black Thought is the greatest rapping human being on the earth. Malik and Black Thought are peers. They right there with it. I'll tell you another story. This past summer, I interviewed Black Thought for a literary magazine, and we sat down and we talked like Philly hip hop history shit. We talked rhyme writing, like the process of writing rhymes and everything. And I asked him, I knew that him and Malik met at a school called Millersville, which is right outside of Philly. Malik had a partner, a kid named Marty, that lived in our neighborhood, who Marty was a genius too. He would rhyme, he would battle cats, and he would switch between English and Arabic because Marty was Muslim. So he would switch between English and Arabic in his rhymes. He was like a crazy MC. Marty got killed in the early 90s. So Malik was without, a partner. So if you listen to the Roots song Water, I don't know specifically if Black Thought is referencing this, but he has a line where he says, we went to Millersville to get away from gun clapping. Malik went to Millersville after Marty had got killed, if I'm not mistaken. So Black Thought's cousin knew Malik, and he would Black Thought told me this. He was like, yo, my cousin would tell me like, yo, it's a dude Malik B, man. This dude he'll kill you. He crazy on the mic. You ain't fucking with him. So Black Thought told me that he could have went to Temple. He enrolled in Millersville just to meet Malik B and battle him.
Wow.
Right? They met at a party because he this shit is so crazy. He signed up, Black Thought signed up for classes, and he was like, all right, boom, I'm here. Where's this dude Malik? So he's looking for this guy. You know what I mean? So he found him. They battled at a party, and he said they battled each other for 3 hours at a party. Right? And were, locking in. So he's telling me this shit, and I'm like, so who won? Right? So how MCs are. Black Thought, he told me that he won, but he said that he won because he did little, like he would go into like patois, do like a little dance hall thing, or he'll do. He said he had more showmanship, but Malik had bars, and he said they like locked horns and battled for 3 hours straight. Which I ain't never battled a nigga for no 3 hours. I don't even know what kind of stamina that requires, but that's how they became partners. He went to school just to find Malik and battle him because his cousin hyped Malik up so much. Like, man, this dude, you think you nice, this dude to destroy you. And as an MC, he was like, I gotta find this guy. So Malik was an elite MC, a beautiful human being. And that's him,
Wow. I just feel like he kept his friend's legacy alive because in that line he said Muhammad Soholoho Walehi, like he was spitting Arabic in that, man. That joint.
Yeah.
Malik B, bro.
That's
Malik
what
B, man.
Black Thought said when his cousin, before they met, his cousin was telling him about him. He said it was this line his cousin used to say all the time. Malik would battle niggas. He'd be like, something. I say, Assalamu alaikum. And when I see your sneakers, I take them. Black Thought said his cousin would like say the line like in his face, like
right.
I take him like real greasy to let him know, like, man, when you beat this nigga, he gonna take you out. So it's I could talk about Malik all day. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Thank you for that. Dope. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah. So Malik, shout out to Matthew Coop again. Bring him in. He says Malik B is on the mic.
Too much on my mind.
Yeah, man, I love Malik B. He was one of like the Roots. You know, when he was with the Roots, it was like I'm not sure which one I like more. You never really have to choose. You know, they were just so dope together.
Man, I used to get into arguments with cats in Chicago about that. Like Malik B. Yo, he ain't touching. Black Thought ain't touching Malik B. You just ain't hearing what this man doing, bro. They're like, man, you tweaking, man. Black Thought. I used to hold it down for Malik B, bro. Like, man, you better get off my man, Joe. Like, I'm Malik B, bro, all day. Not taking nothing from Black Thought. Black Thought is who Black Thought is, but for some reason, I gravitated to Malik. Like the instant, I'm like, this dude cold, bro.
Yeah.
Voice, cadence, lyrics, everything, bro. I was like,
Malik say B, little slick shit that
bro.
stick in your mind,
Yeah, man, for sure.
So I wanted to ask you about kind of motivation. Like you're a writer, producer, podcast. You do all these different things. Is it because you like, does each one of those things bring out a different part of you, or is it kind of the same motivation to do all these different things?
I would say this: they're definitely all related. Right. And it really depends on the assignment. Like earlier today, Bandcamp asked me to write a piece about gospel. So I grew up in the church, right? I used to go to Thankful Baptist Church when I was a kid, and I was one of those kids, they would throw a suit on me and have me like preach before the preacher came out. You know what I'm saying? And I grew up singing in the choir. So, that accessed my gospel part of my brain, you know what I'm saying? Or if I have to sit down with Black Thought, that, accesses my Philly hip hop history / my MC part of the brain. So he can talk MC language and I could talk MC language back at him because I did that shit for all of my life. You know what I'm saying? So it's all related, you know what I mean? As far as motivation, I'm motivated because I love it.
Yeah.
But also like it's literally my job. You know what I mean? I don't do no other shit. You know what I'm saying? So the motivation to keep like food in my refrigerator, you know what I'm saying? And to take my partner out on like nice dates and shit. That's the motivation too. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's a thing that I've deeply loved. I started writing in for magazines in high school, you know what I'm saying? So it's a thing that I love a lot that I figured out how to make money from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Dope. Yeah. That's really dope. So I don't know of anyone, maybe Questlove, that I would say knows as much about music as you do. Yeah. Have you ever met someone where you're like, oh snap, this dude knows more than me?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Really?
Yeah. I interviewed a gentleman named Steve Rowland, who used to be the music director for Temple's radio station, WRTI. And in the 60s, they switched it over to a jazz station. And then, later Steve took over as the music director. And I'm talking to him and he's just like laying out Philly jazz history for me. You know what I mean? And it was like going back to school. I did a piece for Reverb a while ago on Jay Dilla. And basically, the way I saw it, a lot of people had written about Jay Dilla's production, the swing, you know, whether or not he quantized, how he flipped the samples, but nobody had talked about post-production. You know what I'm saying? So I have an engineering background, like mixing records and shit. So I was like, yo, wouldn't it be ill if we sat down and figured out how various engineers mixed and mastered Jay Dilla records throughout the years? So I sat down with David Kennedy, who did like the Uma era stuff. Bob Power, who did all of the Tribe records and did a lot of the like Soul Aquarian stuff. Todd Farrell, who was the recording and mix engineer on a lot of the early Slum Village stuff. He did like Volume 2 and all that stuff. And also Dave Cooley, who mastered Donuts. And I just asked them questions about engineering different Dilla records, and all of them fucking dudes know more more about music than me. And sitting with Bob Power and him talking about frequencies and we used to like we would isolate like 1K and then bump it in like the EQ and shit. That was like going back to school for engineering, just sitting and talking with Bob Power for an afternoon. So yeah, like I don't walk around like I'm like, it's a ton of shit I don't know. And I learn stuff every day. My man Steve, I keep shouting out Steve. My man Steve, I remember years ago, he made me 8 cassette mixtape series of Wu-Tang rarities. You feel me? And I don't think he was on the internet then. You know what I mean? Just having rare Wu shit. Yeah. He's a genius, like with knowing like hip hop history and culture. So yeah, it's a ton of people that know more than me. You know what I'm saying? I know my little pockets.
Yeah. That's cool.
Man.
That's cool.
Bob Power is the Albert Einstein of engineering, bro.
Facts.
They even look. They
the
even
coolest
look
dude.
Yeah,
he seemed like a cool cat, man.
Yeah, the coolest dude, and was just like, I'm just asking him stuff, and he just going through it, breaking it down. Yo, how'd y'all mix this? How did y'all get this to sound like that? And he just going through it, breaking it down.
Yeah. Wow.
So I have a question with your knowledge of music we're all kind of seeking out and asking this question, and it revolves around the native tongues. Mm-hmm. Do you have an idea or a source of like who is in the native tongues and who isn't? Because I just feel like there's just things like floating around. Like everyone agrees upon like a certain list. But then there's these other artists just kind of floating, like, yeah, maybe they are, maybe they're not,
it's crazy. My partner be laughing at me because I be telling her, like, yo, niggas in this native tongues group, they be posted stuff that ain't native tongues. You know what I mean? And she like, you're the only one that cares about that. You know what I'm saying? But from my understanding, based on like reading a bunch of magazines when I was a kid, native tongues is Tribe, De La Soul, Jungle Brothers, Queen Latifah, Moni Love. I guess you could say Red Alert as well. He's kind of like he's the uncle of the native tongues. You feel me? Beatnuts, Chiali,
Black Sheep too, right?
And Black Sheep. Apologies, and Black Sheep. You know what I'm saying? That's been my understanding. I'm seeing people say, oh, well, later they said most was native tongue. I've heard like Bush Babies and shit.
Right.
I don't know nothing about that. I know the cats that I've named. You know what I mean? Ask Q-Tip. You know what I'm saying? Tip might break it down and say, oh, this person, is affiliated. But like that's Tribe, De La, Jungle Brothers, Latifah, Moni, Beatnuts, Black Sheep, Chiali.
That's so interesting because in the Tribe documentary, Pasta News named Brand Nubians. He named leaders of the New School.
See?
And there was another group that he named in the documentary, because we working on this book, and I've been watching that documentary over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And it's a part of the documentary where they like native tongues is Pasta News is like, talking on the mic like you got, John, and he like Pasta New. He was like native tongue is, and then he named them.
Yeah,
and he was like brand Nubians, leaders of the new school. I one day I'm just gonna watch it again and write it down, the ones that he said. So he named the ones that you named, but they didn't name Red Alert. And I'm like, they don't even name Prince Paul, because I would consider Prince Paul a part of native tongue. You know what I mean?
Prince Paul's De La to me.
Yeah,
right.
I know he
right.
He
plugged 4.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Literally, yeah.
So yeah. So, but yeah, it's that's a very good question. That's a good. Thanks, John, for your take. That's a great
absolutely.
question.
Who am I to I ain't gonna go against what Pasta News say, but I coming up. You know what I'm saying? Like coming up, that's who I understood native tongues.
Me too.
Yeah.
Your list is similar to mine. Your list is very similar to mine.
Yeah, your list is identical to what I thought, except Beat Nuts.
Beat Nuts, right?
I never thought that they were officially,
Yeah, I was missing them too.
That's what the thing is back in the day, though. That's what I heard. If it, somebody else remember better than me, I remember them saying that back in the day.
Yeah. Wow. And I think one part about it is like, and I was saying this to someone that we were kind of getting back and forth, like Wu-Tang, they were a group, had 9 members. They have their names, like it was a group. Native Tongues was like, hey, y'all doing music, cool, we love y'all, respect y'all, and just kind of like doing it together. So it wasn't like group. It was just people doing stuff.
Like what do they say? Like a confederation of people. Like, oh, y'all over here doing y'all thing, and we're all loosely related.
Yeah. Although someone in that Facebook group that we moderate posted a song produced by Bronze Nazareth and some MC that's not connected to native tongues at all. It's like, I don't think this is gonna fly.
Yo.
I can understand like the Bush Babies, like the lineage of native tongues. Like I understand that. Like it's very much inspired by, so there's it's a second cousin type of thing, but
And I mean, Pasta News did a lot of production. Well, not a lot, but he did quite a bit of production on that Gravity album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then now that you think about it, like in the Can I Kick It video, the Beat Nuts are in that video. You know what I'm saying? When they got the it sign and they running around kicking it. Yeah. That's like the Beat Nuts are there. So I'm like, I gotta take that back.
They produced a lot of stuff on that Chi Ali record, and said they wrote a lot on it too. Produced a lot of the Moni Love stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Beat Nuts was right. It was right in the mix.
Yeah, it was there. Yeah, that's dope. That's dope.
Profound Iron Moss. Any other questions before we get into some celebration of music?
Man,
I'm with you, Io. I'm right there. No, I'm stuck with you. We can do this all night long.
I know. Real. I'm stuck on Philly, like, because I almost went to I went to Temple for a school visit to go there for my master's degree. Temple was on my list to go, like, just because Bill Cosby went there. I'm like, Bill went to Temple. I want to go to Temple. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I actually went to Philly on my own for a visit. Like, you know what I'm saying? To go to Temple. You know what I'm saying? But like Mark Lamont Hill means so much to me. Just to take it off of hip hop for a while, because I love books. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm an avid book reader. And I love what he did in Germantown with Uncle Bobby's. Like that spot to me is amazing. That's when I go back to Philly. That's the first place that I'm going to go to, man. And I'm gonna stay there all day. I'm just gonna soak it in.
It's so chill, and it's like, it's a nice vibe at Uncle Bobby's. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm just like, what would you say, like, what does like that community mean to you? Like, because I look at Philly as such a, like, very Islamic, you know what I'm saying? It's very Islamic based, which I love. And I just love like the camaraderie, like even like the history of what's the sister name that was a part of the Black Arts Movement?
Sonia Sanchez.
Sonia Sanchez lived in Philly. You know what I mean? A friend of mine used to live down the street from her. And he said he used to like walk down the street and see her sitting on her porch, and they would just chop it up. for like hours, like just the history that's there in Philly. Like, can you speak to like the intellectual, like many, like the like even sorry, I
Jamal.
can't. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And the book that he wrote with Mark Lamont Hill, The Classroom and the Cell, you know what I mean? Just the intellectual production of Philly and what that means, you know what I'm saying? Like, can you speak to that? If my question makes sense, I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. I think that so Philadelphia, obviously like a majority black town, even if we not, demographically the majority, which I think we are, but culturally, Philadelphia is a very black town. And thinking about that legacy of like black radical politics, Islam, you know what I mean? Philly, Malcolm X, was sent here by the Nation of Islam to like establish and shore up, temples. He built a temple here that's in West Philly, if I'm not mistaken. He lived in North Philly. You know what I mean? I believe sister named Queen Mother Audley Moore, who was one of Malcolm's mentors. I think she lived here too. If somebody knows better, forgive me for misspeaking and correct me. But I believe Queen Mother Audley Moore lived here. She was one of Malcolm's teachers. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's a deep history. Philly also, had like the Black Mafia, which was heavily Muslim. A lot of those guys were Nation of Islam, but then they converted to Sunni Muslim. So you have
Orthodox.
you know what I'm saying? So you have a lot of Black Philadelphia that's heavily Muslim, and it influences the culture. Malik B, as we mentioned earlier, was Muslim. Malik, he went to the same masjid as my uncle Mubarak. You know what I mean? It's a masjid not far from my mom's crib. You know what I mean? You will see him on Friday, garbed up. You know what I mean? Going to the masjid. So Philly is very much, an Islamic town. Philly's unique because Black Philly and White Philly are very different. But also intersect in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? We all fuck with hip hop. We all love the roots. We all eat cheesesteaks and shit, even though we eat different kinds of cheesesteaks. You know what I mean? We all root for the Sixers. You know what I'm saying? But it's a really diverse town, and that history that you're speaking of, like specifically like the Black political history, is so deep. Mumia is somebody who came out of the Black Panther movement, you know what I'm saying, which was heavy here, you know what I mean, and the police here were on their backs, you know what I mean, trying to because they knew that the Panthers had like the ear of the community, you know what I mean, so that the police did barbaric shit to the Panthers, you know what I mean. There's a famous picture where the former police chief, he ended up, white folks ended up voting him in as mayor, Frank Rizzo, a brutal, racist and a fascist. He raided or led a raid on the Black Panthers headquarters, and there's a very famous picture where they stripped the Panthers naked in the street.
Yeah, I remember that.
And had the guns on them and shit. So it's been a long history and a long political struggle as well, and in a lot of ways it is very connected to the music, you know what I'm saying, that comes out of Philadelphia. You look at even you look at somebody like Beanie Siegel's a Muslim, you know what I mean. Freeway, you know what I mean. Folks, you have a lot of folks who are my age. Their parents were associated with, like the quote unquote like Black mafia, you know what I mean, and everybody got, family members who, were maybe affiliated with that, or were affiliated with Gamble and Huff and Philadelphia International, you know what I mean. That whole culture that came out of the 60s and flourished, in the 70s, that stuff's in, you know, our cultural DNA still.
Yeah. Man, powerful. Well, and I got one last question about the performing arts school that produced like Boyz II Men, Reese. I think she went there, if I'm not mistaken. And I just wonder, like, did Questlove go there and Black Thought? Did they go to that performing arts school?
Kappa, Questlove, Black Thought, a lot of jazz musicians went there. Emile LaRue from the group Groove Theory.
Emile
went
LaRue.
there.
Yes.
That's crazy because we just moved last spring. But at our last house, I was like right up the street from Kappa.
Okay.
And I never lived. It's in South Philly. I'd never lived in South Philly before. And my lady was like, I was like, yo, is that Kappa? She's like, yeah, it's Kappa. You know, like, how long have you lived in this city? You know what I mean? But it's like a crazy history and a lot of prominent folks that have come out of that school too.
Yeah. Wow. So that Philly just dope, bro. I could go all day, but I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there. I got so many. That Philly is a dope city, man. That's like one of my favorite places to go, man. Every time.
I love it. And we show love to folks that's not from here.
All day.
You know what I'm saying? We show love.
All day. Because I remember the first time I went, that's a quick story. I remember the first time I went, we were staying in Center City. And I'm like, man, you know, listening to the Roots and everything, I'm like, man, I want to go to West Philly, man. I don't want to do what the tourists, I don't want to run up the stairs. Like, I don't want to do that. Y'all can do that. My mom, I went with my mother, like, y'all can do that. I'm trying to see where West Philly at. And I just wound up sneaking away from my people, got on the train. I asked somebody, like, how you go to West Philly? They're like, man, you go blah, 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 blah. I met some people, man, and they just showed me love, bro. Like, dropped me back off at the hotel. Everything, bro. I was like, man, Philly it's love, bro. I love that city, man. It's dope. It's dope people there. Amazing people there, bro.
Absolutely.
So, that's a dope city, bro.
Incredible music has come out of there. We're gonna celebrate some of that music. Before we do Profound, anything else you want to ask about?
No. Hold on. Nope. No, I'm good, man. I gotta get to Philly though. I know that. I ain't never been.
You never been?
You never? Oh,
nah, man, I've never been.
You would like it, man.
One thing I remember me. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Pro. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'm an MC that ain't been to Philly, man. Like, man, Philly, bro.
I remember me and Rich. I had a show in New York, and Rich came with me, Filthy Rich, and he knew Rich Medina, and Rich Medina had a party where he played all Fela, bro. That was like the best party I ever. We danced all night. All he played was Fela, dog.
Rich, I'll say this,
dope, bro.
I don't know Rich. I've seen Rich spin here a lot. Rich is a wizard, man. We used to go when you remember Bobito had the store in New York, Footwork.
Okay. No, I didn't know he had a store, bro.
Okay. Yeah, he used to have a store called Footwork. So in like, I think it was like the late 90s, maybe the early 2000s, they opened Footwork Philadelphia, and Rich ran it. And, you know, we'd go in there and like get our records and shit, you know what I mean? Go and buy like little tapes and stuff. And after hours, they would have battles, and they would have like functions and shows, and people would perform. And Rich, man, he used to just like tear it down, like just on the decks, you know what I mean? Like playing like, you know, I remember I rolled up on him, and I'm like 18, 19 or whatever. And I'm like, yo, man, can you play Saphir Smart Bomb? He's like, all right, I got you. And I'm thinking like, man, he ain't going to play it. These East Coast people don't even know about Saphir. Man, maybe 10 minutes later, I hear that beat come on, and he playing Saphir. You know what I mean? Stuff.
Wow. Oh, snap.
Hey, Saphir is dope. Saphir is too dope. He's right back. There we go.
Okay, I dropped out. Shit that you don't even hear. You know what I mean? So yeah, Rich is a beast. I remember years later, I was probably like 24 or 25, and they had a party on the steps, the Rocky steps, the art museum steps, and it was like, some folks that I knew that was going to be there. So we went, and Rich was just DJing on the steps of the art museum, and the music that he was playing, man, it was so beautiful. He was playing like some of that Fela. He was playing, I remember he played Steely Dan. You know what I'm saying? And it was just gorgeous. And it was a similar thing to what you experienced. We just danced all night. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's another part of the Philly thing. Is like the DJ culture is unparalleled, I would say.
And Rich Medina, he's Philly, right? Philly native, right?
I think he's from Jersey. Okay. Forgive me if I'm mistaken. But he honorary Philly. If he wasn't born here, he honorary Philly.
No doubt. Yeah,
well, speaking of Philly, I wanted to end the show celebrating the catalog, the Roots catalog, being that you've written about it, about the Roots extensively. I wanted to do some, in my personal opinion, I feel like the Roots have not put out a bad album. I think they put out dope albums, classic albums, and masterpieces. Yeah. So I want to see what you think. So we're gonna do a little speed round here. I'm gonna show you each album and ask you what you think. Is it a dope album, a classic, or a masterpiece?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or do you need to find another word if it's not dope? Because I think they're all dope, but maybe you don't. Yeah. So all right. So we'll start at the beginning here. First one is Organics by the Roots.
Organics, I have to say, is a classic. I remember you couldn't really find it in like Tower Records or whatever. In the same spot that I mentioned earlier that I bought Fun Crusher from a store called Armand's. I remember they had a European import of Organics on like a double vinyl, and I bought it, and I was, like a teenager or whatever. And yeah, it just Philly, it's crazy because Organics, if you listen to that record, it very much feels like early 90s Philly. And then they made a crazy leap, with Do You Want More and Illadelph. But that record very much reminds me of what the city felt like when I was a preteen.
Okay.
Dope. All right, so one for classic. Next one.
Masterpiece.
Masterpiece.
Yeah, absolute right. Masterpiece.
Definitely.
Do You Want More doesn't sound like anything else. You know what I mean? All the little like trippy inside my head, it's to see like the little like when they you hear like the little like telephone voice that they use and the little like weird echoes and delays that they put on the voices. That record has colors on it that don't really exist in any other music. So yeah, that's definitely a masterpiece.
All right.
It's so lazy afternoon.
Oh, I love that song.
Come on. That shit's perfect.
Illadelph Half-Life.
Another masterpiece.
Yes.
Very much the sound of my childhood. Yeah. Or my teenage years, I would say. Very much like that whole like clones. First of all, let's talk about these ill places. If I ask for bitches are now called vapors. That whole like run up on you and battle you energy is the energy of my teenage years. That shit, that's how that shit felt.
I remember getting the CD in high school, and I couldn't wait to go home after school just to listen to it again. Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
I just sat and looked at the CD cover for hours. I wonder what block they on. Like, right. Is that North Philly? Is that South Philly? Is that what you said?
Right.
Like that cover is just cold, bro.
And the liner notes, love their liner notes.
Yeah, that joint monumental.
Quest is he's a master with liner notes.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, for real.
All right. Next, we got Things Fall Apart.
Things Fall Apart. Another one. It's crazy because like everything you're showing me is like a different time period of my life. Things Fall Apart, I would say, is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I did not love it when it came out. When it came out, I remember because Illadelph I loved so much.
Yeah,
I remember being underwhelmed by Things Fall Apart, and then it was one of those records that kind of grew on me and revealed more of itself as as I went on, and very much Beanie Siegel's on it. Yeah. Very much the sound of my late teens into my 20s.
Yeah.
That was around the time when the Black Lily was popping in Philly, which is like a famous open mic. Jasmine Sullivan would perform there when she was a teenager. We see like Jill Scott come in. You know what I'm saying? I remember we used to go every Tuesday, and one Tuesday I skipped it. And my homies that I would, ride out with, it would be like them and like some girls we went to high school, or that I went to high school with. My homies were a little older than me. I remember my man, he was like, yo, man, they on some bullshit at the Black Lily. And I'm like, why? He's like, yo, that booth we usually sit in, they told us we couldn't sit in there because fucking Puffy was there that night. You know what I'm saying? And they got kicked out of the booth. So yeah, Things Fall Apart is very much that Philly street energy of the late 90s, early 2000s, with Beanie Siegel, Major Figures. That energy is on it, but also that quote unquote neo soul energy too. It's a nice combination of the two, or at least that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, Phrenology.
I love experimental shit. So I'm gonna say that Phrenology is dope and approaching what's above dope. I think they took a lot of crazy chances, and I love that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we were talking about Electric Circus on the timeline the other day, and I thought Electric Circus didn't go far enough. You know what I'm saying? When it came out, I was like, yo, I want this shit to be more bugged out. So I appreciate Phrenology. Water, I think Water's on Phrenology. Water is to me one of the great songs in the Roots catalog. So yeah, it's like it's a banging fucking album.
Yeah, agreed. Rising Down.
Also dope, good album. Very dark. You know what I'm saying? Which I appreciate. And a lot of is that the Styles is on that one, right?
Yeah, Styles P and Most Def.
Yeah, you kind of get the feeling. So when Phrenology came out, the story is a lot of those songs were supposed to be from Black Thought's solo album, Masterpiece Theater. So they scrapped a lot of that stuff. There's a single, I got it in here somewhere, Hardware, that was produced by the Japanese DJ producer DJ Crush. So they got rid of that. They put that out, and then a lot of those songs ended up on Phrenology. So that, to me, Phrenology into Rising Down is the beginning of Black Thought really asserting himself as a, like, I'll cut your fucking head off MC within the Roots universe. Very much in Organics, Do You Want More, those records. He's very much an instrument in the band.
Yeah.
Around here, he's like, no, I'm a fucking killer. You know what I mean? So it's a dope record. It ain't my favorite one in their catalog, but most people don't make a record that good.
Right. Going out of order a little bit with some of these, but next one, and I can't find the cover of this one. Darn shame. Game Theory.
Game Theory, low key a masterpiece.
I feel that.
It's better than anything else that they made in the 2000s. I would say that. There's a song on there, Baby. It's like one of the strangest and best Roots songs. You know what I'm saying? Like a sleeper in their catalog. So I would definitely. Game Theory is one of my favorites, and I loved it when it came out.
Right, same. All right, Tipping Point.
A dope record. Be Cool is also one of my favorite Roots songs. With the Al Hurt sample that De La used.
Ego Trip. So, I love that joint.
Yeah, it's a dope record.
Dope. I would say that their catalog's so dope that this is my least favorite, I think, from them, and I still think it's dope.
Yeah, Yeah.
I still enjoy it. All right. How I Got Over.
Surprisingly good to me.
Mm.
I love the Roots, but they've been around a million fucking years. I had no expectations when that record came out. That record is ill, and the year it came out, I think 2010, I went to the Roots picnic, and my homeboy was a runner for Live Nation. So he hooked me and my date up with like the all access, you know what I mean? So we like backstage and shit. I'm like, hey, it's Fab Five Freddy, dapping up Fab Five Freddy and shit.
Wow.
We just, we in the mix. And they performed a lot of stuff from that record. They backed up Meth, was it Meth, Ghost, and Ray, I think.
Whoa.
They were their band. And we're standing on the stage. I'm like, I could have taken like a paper airplane and threw it at somebody. We're that close on the stage. Fucking Jazzy Jeff is next to me. I'm like smoking an L and shit, and like Jazzy Jeff is standing there. So that record, I think of that performance, and I like the record a lot when it came out. I think seeing them perform that close right there and do a lot of songs from that era, kind of like made me love it even more.
Yeah. Wow. That's the one thing I love about this album is like, I've noticed a lot of younger cats or cats just got into hip hop a little bit later on. They oftentimes will say this is their favorite Roots album, which I think is really dope. Super dope. All right. Couple more. Undone
is a dope, ambitious album. I don't love Undone.
Yeah.
It's Undone and the next one that you're about to pull up are definitely at the bottom of their catalog as far as like joints that I like.
And then You Shoot Your Cousin.
Probably my least favorite Roots record.
Really?
Yeah. And what's crazy about it is that it's so ambitious. It's a concept album, and I love music that's like, that is composed in suites. So how, you would hear like a Frank Zappa record, like Peaches and Regalia, where like, you have all these different like movements within one piece of music. I love shit like that. And that a lot of that is happening on And Then You Shoot Your Cousin. But it's like, it's so sad and like, it's heavy. I don't know if I'm gonna revisit it. I don't know if it didn't hit me in the right place, in my life. But that shit is like, it's like dark and it feels heavy for me. So it's my least favorite one to listen to.
Yeah. I don't know why Undone. I like Undone, but like I didn't love it. But this album, I really like this album. It's super short, which I think it kind of like ushered in like a return to like really short music, short albums.
People on that wave now, just like short and sweet.
Short and sweet. All right. One last one, not a Roots album, but want to end with this one we talked about a few times, and it's one of my favorites that needs to get talked about more and more and more. Collage by
Yes.
I knew
Come on, brother.
I knew it,
brother. Yes.
Bahamadia, yo. That record. So before that record came out, Bahamadia had a song called Funk Vibe, right? And it was produced by DJ Ran, who was he had a show on the radio. It was a late night mix show called Radioactive, and they would play all of the like underground shit, people like the Roots and Ruggedness and Mad Drama, 100X, all of the like Philly like 90s groups would come and like Freestyle on the Air or whatever, and they would play that stuff. And DJ Ran, he produced Funk Vibe, and he would play it on the air. And I remember the joint comes on and she's like, coming in with the rhyme to set it off with dope sauce, looking at the front door, main source, who be supreme like Diana to the Ross, and the something they got to jumping like crisscross. MCs, they must be off of a rocker, thinking they can stop the man. I'm like, who the fuck is this? I had no idea, because I'm assuming West Philly's kind of like that, like or used to be, but it still is today, even with like the young cats. you pop in your neighborhood, and then the rest of the city starts to hear about you. So I'm sure West Philly people knew her. I ain't know who the fuck that was. And that Funk Vibe record blew me away. And then when Collage came out, it's really one of my favorite rap records of all time. Like from that era, but also of all time, man. She's an impeccable writer. The production is crazy because people rightfully talk about Illmatic and like the production lineup that was on Illmatic, but man, she had Premier, Guru, Beat Miners. The producer lineup for Collage is nothing to sneeze at. And like my man Steve just said, Bahamadia also had her own radio show in Philly called Bahamadia's B-Sides, which was even deeper underground as far as the music they played. It was deeper underground than even Radioactive was. That's where they would play like Company Flow, all of the raucous stuff that was coming out. Sir Menelek. We was hearing on a Friday night on a strong FM signal, Sir Menelek and Company Flow and all of this like underground shit, and heads would come up to the station. Bahamadia would freestyle with him. Rich Medina would DJ on the air. Rich Medina would spin a cat named Groove the Most, who Groove was Will Smith's original DJ. Back in the day, he was Bahamadia's DJ on her radio show. You know what I'm saying? So Bahamadia's like, if they giving out keys to the city, she ought to get one. You know what I mean? Because she really pushed a lot of boundaries. And Philly, I gotta say this, Philly has always produced a lot of ill women MCs, right? In 1979, Shorty Nomas, Lady B put out what was probably the first hit Philly rap record, a record called To the Beat Y'all. Malika Love, Mac Money, Yvette Money, My Brother's Crew, the Devastating Four, even now with like Tierra Whack, you know what I mean? Bahamadia. Philly has always produced, I'm forgetting a ton of people, Lean Bean. Philly has always produced elite level women MCs that are like, cut your fucking head off. And Bahamadia's the right top there. Of the top.
Yeah.
It's one more thing. It's bugged out because Bahamadia, man, if I had a time machine, Bahamadia did a show in Philly with Company Flow circa 97 or whatever. And I remember her talking about it on the radio, like, yeah, I'm gonna be at whatever club and Company Flow's performing. And I was like, yo, I'm gonna go to that. And the night it happened, I ended up going to do some other shit and missed it. And then Company Flow broke up. And I was like, damn, so I never got to see Co-Flow live, you know what I mean, when I could have seen them with Bahamadia.
Do you know have you written on this album?
I don't think I've ever written anything about Collage. I definitely should.
Because I know there's like podcasts and stuff where like they'll take an album and they'll break it down and talk about it. I'm not sure if anything's ever been done on this album.
Yeah.
I think if I'm correct, we need to change that
because it flies under the radar. Like her and Lauryn Hill, I don't say they female MCs. They're MCs, bro. Like I will put them up against anybody. I don't care, male, female, alien. I don't care what you is, bro. Like I just see them as MCs, and I go back to that Collage album a lot.
Yeah, and this album
a lot.
This came out in the era where if you had interludes on your album, they had to be as good or better than the beats on your normal songs.
Well,
the interludes on here.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's dope.
There's a record on there, Spontaneity.
Yeah.
With the that sample is a Philly record. It's a jazz band called Catalyst. That they're in Philly. The saxophone player Odine Pope I think lives not far from my mom's crib.
Oh wow.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Man, one of the illest posse or crew cuts, man. 3 the Hard Way.
Read the
That
hard
sister.
way.
What she say? You for those were the ones who forget back when your ears was wet. I need a mic check. She's so cold.
Smoke
dude.
that
Like,
shit.
man,
So
is she
dope,
from
so
Philly?
dope.
Is she from Philly? The one.
All of them are
she's
from
so
Philly.
Cold, dog.
Yeah.
Like
When
that
sis,
sister, man.
what does she say?
Something in the spirits lead the waters like the ones that Moses parted. Like what?
That was another one they used to play a lot on Radioactive, and just hearing that on a Friday night and the DJ like cutting it up, and then we're gonna rock this motherfucker like 3 the hard way. And it's blasting over the airwaves. That's man, I'm not a nostalgic person too much, or I try not to be. That was a beautiful era. That was a beautiful era in our city.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
no doubt. Well, listen, John, the way we like to end our shows, because it's hip-hop shows with shout-outs. So we'll go around the room giving shout-outs, and then we'll pass it to you for the final words and the final shout-out.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Profound, who you want to shout out tonight, my man?
Man, shout out Brother John Morrison, man, because, man, you got me like I got a notepad out, man. I got some homework to do and everything, man. Shout out to this brother, man, to the Boom Bap crew, of course, IO, Till You, Big Stowe, Bo, Joe November. You know how we get down. Y'all get that book out there if y'all ain't got it, and get all 3 actually. We got the new one coming up, and man, that's how we do it, man. Shout out to Peace and Love, man. Shout out to Philly, man, for sure. Yeah, shout out to Philly, man. Everybody back home in Chicago, you know how we do it.
No doubt. Thank you, Profound. Io Mas, who you want to shout out tonight?
Man, shout out to Boom Bap Chat brothers, you, Pro, Bo, Stowe, Joe, you know what I'm saying? Shout out my brother John Morrison stopping through, man. Much history. You like a walking encyclopedia. Just so glad to have you here, man. Thank you for taking the time to like be with us, man. Shout out Philly, shout out the crib, Chicago, you know what I'm saying? Shout out, man, rest in power to Malik B. Much love to Bahamadia, Black Thought, Amir, everybody come out of Philly, man. The music and the history of Philadelphia is definitely a huge part of my development as an artist and as an intellect. So much respect, man. Much respect. And I'm out, man, with that. No doubt.
No doubt. I want to echo Io Mas. Shout out this man right here, Malik B.
Yes. Oh, man. That's the Mr. Green joint?
That's the Mr. Green joint. I really like this sound. So shout out Malik B and the Roots. And yeah, no doubt, Philadelphia. Shout out Steve Clark. Appreciate you tuning in tonight. And I always get some good stuff from all your posts. So I appreciate you. And shout out. Go ahead, John.
I know Steve since we was in the 8th grade. I remember he had the Death of Superman comic book. And I remember Cass was buzzing when my man, what was his name? I can't think of my man name that killed Doomsday. Is when Doomsday killed Superman. I remember kids in school was like, yo, Superman dead. Yo, Superman died. I'm like, no fucking way Superman died. And it's like, yo, this kid Steve got the comic. And I remember I was like, who is this kid? Let me see this shit. I was like, yo, my man, you got a comic book with Superman dying? He's like, yeah, yo, he showed me this shit. We was in 8th grade. He disputes that. He says we met later, but I remember some shit. And yeah, Steve is my man, 50 grand. Absolutely.
Right on.
Big up Steve, bro.
Yeah, shout out Steve for sure. Also, shout out to Profound, his new album, Distant Gratification, coming out May 27th, along with our Native Tongues review book. And the first single video is coming out tomorrow at noon. So be on the lookout on our Facebook page for the video. It'll drop on YouTube as well soon. So shout out to you, Profound. And finally, obviously, shout out to John Morrison, man. Really appreciate you taking some time to be here and appreciate what you do. I follow you and have been inspired by you for several years now. And I just appreciate your depth of knowledge on music and how much you just take the craft and, you just do such a good job of, curating it and loving it and caring for it. And I just appreciate that about you. So thank you for that. And thank you for sharing some of yourself with us tonight.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Just shout out to y'all. Shout out to the whole Boom Bap crew. Shout out to my fiance Melissa.
Woo!
Shout out to my mom. Rest in peace. Shout out to my pops. Shout out to my man Steve. Shout out my man Just. Nope. Our whole crew, our whole high school crew, still healthy, still hang out together. Shout out my man Kiko Vega. Shout out my man Just. I think I just said Just. Shout out all my cousins. Rest in peace to my grandma who just passed. Shout out to the whole Philly. Rest in peace, Malik B. Shout out to all of the ancestors that came before us. You know what I mean? That laid the groundwork for us to do this. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my family. Shout out to my friends. Shout out to future family and my future friends. And just like peace and love. You know what I mean?
Peace and love. And on that note, we say
peace.
Peace. Peace. Peace.
Peace. Peace. Peace.
Peace.